Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 180. I cannot believe, and I say this every time, but I cannot believe that we've made it to our 180th episode, which means you don't have to be a mathematician to really work this out. We're just 20 episodes away from our 200th episode. And those of you that have been following this for a long time will know that this was the episode that I was going to get bored of after 10 episodes and then do something else with my life. But, but 4.5 years later, I'm still sitting in the interviewer's seat. So, episode 180, it's a bit of a rare episode, actually, because it's on the... it's a rare occasion that we get a return guest, and we have a return guest this week. I think actually it's only the 6th time in history, and that's a long period of time. It's only the 6th time in history that somebody has appeared twice on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. I'm delighted to welcome back Felix Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hello, everybody.
It's great to have you with us, Felix Mataji. I had to look back through the archives, really had to look back through the archives to, well, I remember, but I had to make sure I got the details correct to when you last appeared on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. And you last appeared on episode 20, which was a long time ago. Now, get this, we're recording this, so this is pre-recorded. Most people know the secrets to pre-recorded podcasts. We're recording this on the 6th of August, 2025. And we recorded episode 20 on the 6th of August, 2021. 4 years ago. And just to let everyone know, Felix and I did not plan that at all.
No.
It's completely Krishna's arrangement. Actually, it was meant to be 3 weeks ago, but it didn't happen, different issues. And now we are reunited 4 years later to the day. So I love how Krishna has a sense of humor, and Krishna completely knows what's going on. So it's a delight to have Felix Mataji back after all of this time.
Nice to be here.
And I'm really appreciative of her being actually one of our longest guests, not guests, sorry, longest supporters of the Hare Krishna Project. Felix has seen the project grow over the last 4 years and is one of our regular commenters, likers, likers on YouTube and Facebook. And I've been keen for a while to get Felix Mataji back on the podcast, because I think we could talk forever about so many issues. So just before we get into it, some of you might have wondered why I shouted out 180 in that really bizarre way. Well, if you're of a certain age and you're from Great Britain, you'll know there was a very famous TV show called Bullseye back in the day. I used to watch the repeats with my nan. And it was very funny because whenever someone scored 180, it was a darts quiz game, okay? They'd shout 180. And I was determined that when I got to 180, I would shout it like that. Okay. I've never mentioned Bullseye in a Hare Krishna podcast before, and you may never hear it mentioned ever again.
Yeah, first time for everything.
Exactly. Okay, Felix Mataji, let's start, because it's been 4 years and we've got a much bigger audience than what we had 4 years ago today. Let's start with the first question, the nice, easy question, just to warm us up. Please tell us a little bit about you and where you are from.
Hi. Do please call me Felix, by the way.
Okay.
Just Felix is fine because we're just chatting. Well, I was born in 1954. The year the Witchcraft Act was repealed, actually, which is quite good, isn't it? Concerning what we're talking about today.
Oh, we mentioned it. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
The Witchcraft Act was repealed and bananas came off rations, so that was really, really good for me. I was born in that quaint old seaside town called Blackpool, which is on the northwest coast of England, for anybody who doesn't know English geography very well. A slightly crazy place because for 6 months of the year it's full of fun fairs and people selling candy floss, donkey rides on the beach and all this sort of thing. You know, it's crazy busy. And then in the winter it's like a ghost town. very, very quiet. And I was an only child for quite a while. My parents and I live in an attic flat, which was just two big rooms, a living area with a kitchenette and a big bedroom. And first of all, the first room I got used to as a child, or started looking around intensely at, was the bedroom, of course, because kids do, you play there and hide under the bed and do all these sorts of things. And I was about 5, and I said to my dad, "There's books in the wardrobe," and he said, "Oh yes, I know, they're very special ones. You can have a look at them when you're a bit older, but not right now." That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? There's nothing pornographic at all. I know the collection of occult books he had from the 1900s. And in the living room, there was a bookcase where there were smaller, presumably less valuable books. I remember I could read at 5 or 6. They had very interesting titles. Like I remember one was called Philip in Two Worlds, and then another one was called something like Lifting the Veil After Death, whatever. And inside the cover, there was I don't know what you call it, not a dedication. It's where a book says it's from an imprint of the Spiritual Society of whatever, and it would say volume 17 or whatever in the year. And I realized it was actually a collection of books that they built up maybe through the post to study over the years. And I used to look at these when I wasn't throwing them onto the floor to make them into stepping stones and messing about. Turns my blood cold now. I'd look at some of the pictures and some of the text, and it would say things like, I'm making a name up, Jeffrey Brown, medium at so-and-so place, spiritualist church, manifesting ectoplasm behind the curtain, and be a picture of a man in a sort of hut made out of black curtains in the corner of the room going, and having this white stuff coming out of his mouth or out of his fingertips or whatever. And I asked my mum about this, and she said, "Oh, some spiritualists believe that ectoplasm is this sort of half physical, half mental thing. It's like a light that comes out of a medium, and the medium can use the light to help spirit people who want to visit build up a body." I was very, very intrigued by this and became absolutely fascinated by ideas of death, life, not in a morbid way, but life and death in the sense of what was life about, what was the point if we were going to die, but was there something after death? Was life just a passage through, if you like, just a little blip that we lived and then went on to do other things? And I mean, I was very, very young. I think when I was 7, I went to see the books in the wardrobe. I remember getting on a chair that my mother used to put a dressing gown over. I got this book down, and it was so heavy, and it had a rich dark blue thick cotton binding and possibly gold edges to the leaves. And I know that the spine had a picture of a star on it, a Star of David with a snake round it. And it said The Secret Doctrine, which is a theosophical tome, one of the seminal works of Madame Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophy. And, if you're 7 years old and there's a mysterious blue book in a wardrobe that looks like it could take you to Narnia, and the book's called The Secret Doctrine, you're going to have a go at reading it, aren't you? And I remember sitting in bed, and I can still recall the smell of this book now. And I didn't understand most of it. I mean, most postgraduate people would find it hard nowadays. But this woman, Madame Blavatsky, whose photograph was on the interior, the cover, just inside the cover, was talking about how there was to be a new world religion. And its motto was, there is no religion higher than the truth. And I thought, oh, that's very interesting. And I remember I'm very little, but of course I'd been to church services and I've been nominally baptized at a C of E church. And that's when I started getting into all this stuff, if you like, the metaphysical stuff as a child. And my dad said he'd been a member of the Theosophical Lodge locally and something called the Rosicrucians and also the OTO, I believe, which is something else entirely. It's nothing to do with Theosophy, but it's a Western esoteric system. Anyway, that would have been the 1950s. And the curiosity and the fascination never left me, really.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's a short introduction. Oh, my mother, by the way, was a member of a spiritualist church and a healing organization. And she used to go to the spiritualist church and also to a friend of hers who was a medium who fascinated and scared me in equal measure. Strange lady. And we had a healing center up the road, and it was one of those huge Victorian houses that has like a bell tower shape on the top, and it said World Healing Sanctuary. And I used to think that the tower on the top sent out this ray of healing all over the world. And I love that house. I still love it now. Ironically, Blackpool Krishna Society, Hare Krishna Society, were meeting there a few years ago in that very building. So that was nice.
Question for you. It actually wasn't one of the questions I sent you in advance, but you were born in the 1950s. You've talked about this period of time and your father and his interest in things. After the Second World War, was there an increase in interest in things like the occult and kind of alternative spirituality? Because I'm assuming there might have been, but was there?
Oh yes, there was definitely. We had the initial I'm trying to think of the word, resurfacing of interest in spiritualism and the occult after the First World War because of the huge number of deaths. And of course, with the Second World War, some people lived through both of those, and it was turmoil and bereavement all over again. So yes, there definitely was. The 1950s saw a lot of people doing correspondence courses in esoteric subjects, and they were offered by, again, the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucians, and then other other Rosicrucian groups who were in combat with the other Rosicrucians. Yeah, you know the sort of thing. The Association of Rosicrucians, the British Rosicrucian Association, the whatever. Yeah, the Rosicrucians were very interesting because they taught self-development, spirituality, meditation, and they also taught about the theory of reincarnation within world religions such as Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on. They provided quite an interesting introduction to these sort of matters to the layperson. And I have actually, if you're interested, I have a 1950 edition of one of the magazines.
Yes, please. That would be wonderful. Something from the archives, definitely.
Yeah.
And we're going to come on to a bit later on talking a bit more detail about these groups, but I just love hearing about them. You know, I studied new religious movements at university, which is ironically where I discovered ISKCON as an NRM or new religious movement, which is a more politically correct term for cult, basically. You know, I don't like the word cult anyway because it has different meanings, but new religious movement, you know, you can put ISKCON in there, the Church of Scientology, the Divine Light Mission, yeah, all of them. Sorry, you were going to show us something. Let's have a look.
It's okay. This is a Rosicrucian Digest magazine from July, from August 49, July 1952. They're printed in America at 30 cents a copy.
So instead of the Reader's Digest, there's the Rosicrucian Digest. I love that. 30 cents per copy.
30 cents, yeah.
July 1952. My goodness.
And they're absolutely beautifully designed. You know, the drawings are lovely. My dad was training as a graphic artist at the time, so he loved the illustration. I don't know how much of this you can see, actually. They've got something there called Temple Echoes.
Yeah. Hold it up a bit. Just hold it up a bit.
A little bit higher up there.
Bit more high, bit more high. That's it. That's it. That's perfect. Yeah. Wow. So that is 1952, 73 years old.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I got these, I'll be honest, I got these off eBay. He would have had some probably, but he did sell quite a lot of books and ephemera when we moved house. But you know.
You've kind of answered this question already, but
Ah,
but kind of the next question, which kind of flows really nicely on from our discussion now, is
ah.
how did your upbringing influence your interest in spirituality? You've kind of talked about that a bit, but you know, I mean, did you reject it later on, or did you have a whole lifetime of searching? You know, what's
A whole lifetime of searching really sounds a bit tragic, doesn't it, really? But yeah, I was curious. I wanted to see if things worked.
Mm,
And while I was a bit scared to do anything that I would consider dark to influence anybody in any way, I did do some of the basic occult exercises, which are based on ancient Christian theology anyway. There's the one that everybody, well, a lot of people know about, called the vanishing ritual of the pentagram, where you call upon the four archangels of the corners of the world and ask them to create a safe space for you if you're in a position of trouble or change, or if you're in a liminal situation. And it absolutely does work. It has never, ever failed me. But I've done it for things like getting a tribunal moving forward, which was lagging. There's something else as well, and I can't remember actually what it was. Just changing the atmosphere of a building, I think. And one one of them, for a lady who was very much in love with this man, and I'm going to assume it was reciprocated, and she couldn't have a child because she had polycystic ovary syndrome and was sterile, and 9 months later she had one. I asked, well, you only ask for what is supposed to be to get going, and it's almost like prayer, but not quite. It's like um poking the bear a bit to get it out of hibernation. But
mm,
I think to practice this kind of thing, and this is what I've always tried to do, you do have to force yourself to be an ethical person, a very decent person. So all the rules, if you like, that would apply in a Sangha or anywhere else about being honest and not stealing and not, spreading gossip or whatever. I managed to keep that going so that when I have done any magical practice, it's been okay. I've not had any awful comeback or anything like that. It's always to do something that I thought was ethical.
mm,
Uh,
mm.
and the
Yeah,
same things happened talking to Krishna as well. So it's
yeah, yeah.
similar.
And let's talk a bit about that in terms of talking to Krishna, Krishna consciousness. How did you discover Krishna consciousness? So you grew up around all these other things,
Yeah.
and learned about things like like Theosophy, Golden
Spiritualism.
Dawn, maybe spiritualism, maybe a bit of tarot as well. How did you then discover Krishna consciousness? How did you meet the devotees?
This is really an odd one because it was a case of a devotee coming into us when I put myself through university at the age of 28 because I was so determined to study comparative religion, probably a very similar degree to your own, Narada, at Manchester. And we used to have guest speakers and whatever. And I'd actually gone there because I was very interested in Buddhism, but I found it rather dry and a bit like there wasn't anything to reach for, if that makes sense, because it's a very non-deity religion. And I always felt that there was something other, there's an otherness out there to which we can refer and to which with which we can identify. And I studied Hinduism for 3 years as well, but it never occurred to me to actually take anything up at a personal level. And one afternoon, this Hare Krishna bloke came in, a householder, And he was a very nice guy and he answered our question. But of course, it was the thing about women as well. You know, this is the early 80s and we're all very, very feminist. I found a lot of what he was saying pretty sexist and a bit, you know, oh dear, here we go again. You know, the rules for men and the rules for women in life. I'm thinking, well, come on, you don't have to have those rules. You know, it felt like people couldn't think for themselves. And I got a book. I don't know if I got the book from him, but I got the book somewhere, The Science of Self-Realization. And I read some of it and I thought, oh, yeah, this is quite similar to the ideas in Theosophy of some of my dad's books. And I thought the illustrations were absolutely stunning, the color plates in this book. And that was it, really. I didn't see anybody for like 30 years after that. Then they've been told to keep away from me. 30 years, really. Just occasionally in Manchester, you see the Krishnas doing kirtan around town and sometimes they'd loom over you and ask for money for stuff which I thought was a bit irritating. So no, I really don't like somebody saying, you know, we're giving these books away, would you make a donation of 10 quid? And you think, well, no, that's not a donation, is it? I just found their attitude a bit rude. But that's me. I mean, to me, if I'm donating a book, I give it away and that's it, you know. But I thought, well, they're harmless enough and I like the music, and that was it really. Um, until until I met you, quite likely, yeah. I don't know why. I
My
was just
goodness, until you
yeah,
met me.
yeah.
And that was
Kind
well over
of.
4 years ago. That was well over 4 years ago. Um,
Oh yeah, about 7 years ago. I noticed that you were doing not it wouldn't have been this Hare Krishna project, but it was something you were speaking about. And I think it was about um, an open, accessible Hare Krishna group. And I'm pretty sure it was you. And you spoke very eloquently, and it was all about diversity and inclusion. And I thought, oh, yeah, yeah, he's all right. And I thought, I'll have a look into this. So I thought, I was wary because of all the stuff I'd heard at the university. So I looked into it and I thought, yeah, this actually speaks to me. Not the old ISKCON way, but this way, because of the idea of the para-Atman and the Atman, the higher and the little selves linking up. And all the things like reincarnation I've always suspected is true. And vegetarian, I was vegetarian at the time, and I've been vegan about 5 years now. And I used to be a semi-professional percussionist as well, but don't tell anybody. I might get dragged into play things. And I thought this is really funny because all the things kind of pull together, the music and the philosophy and what have you. Plus, I used to have a regular dream for some years, which still happens occasionally now, where I'm meeting a baby and I'm I'm not a maternal person, not in the biological sense by any means. That's never appealed to me. I meet this baby and he's passed along to me, and I say, "Oh, aren't you cute? Aren't you a cute baby?" And he laughs and says, "I'm the oldest man in the world." And it's happened quite a few times. And I thought that dream means something, you know, because I think some dreams mean more than others. Some are just rubbish that your brain's getting out of your head for the day, but some are meaningful.
mm.
And,
So
and I was,
I feel quite touched to hear your words.
oh,
I mean,
you're welcome.
I've been around for a long time. I mean, I sound a bit old. I'm not. And I've been banging on about inclusion and talking
Yeah.
about inclusion in the Hare Krishna movement for a long time. And sometimes you give these talks and you make these statements and you don't know who's listening. So
Mm.
I just felt quite touched that all those years ago, 7 years ago, I was talking about inclusion in Krishna consciousness, and you were
Yeah.
listening. So thank you. And ironically, well, it's not ironic. Nothing's ironic with Krishna. That I'm putting the structure together for a book now called Inclusive Krishna,
Ah,
which is about including people from all walks of life, which isn't always easy because we'll all have our preconceived ideas and prejudices from our background, from our childhood, from past lives. But how can we really include people, all people, irrespective of their skin color or their gender or their sexuality or their wealth or lack of wealth, and unfortunately, in the Hare Krishna movement, there is lots of discrimination like there is in the real world,
Well,
And so if you really try understand, and it's not always easy because we're attached and we forget and we've got worldly distractions. But if you really try and understand that Paramatma, the part of Krishna that exists in every living entity, all living entities, not just those that chant the Hare Krishna mantra, not just those that are of Indian heritage, not just those that are in full-time work, not
in,
just
in
those
your
that are,
hat.
yeah, not
Yeah.
just humans, not just those that are heterosexual, all living entities. Krishna, in his Paramatma form, God, exists in all living entities. So we should treat all living entities with the same respect. And actually, for me, it's a no-brainer. I'll be honest, I'm not always very good at it because, I'm a human being and I make mistakes. But that's my aspiration. How can we be truly
Oh,
inclusive?
yes. Yes, an aspiration.
Um,
Um,
so I'm pleased that something that we've done at the Hare Krishna Project has inspired you.
yeah, it hit the spot. Yes, it's.
Yeah.
Did I tell you about my experience at the Jagannath, the chariot festival in Manchester?
The Rath Theatre, you might have years ago, but feel
Yeah.
free to tell us again.
Well, that was quite interesting because, as you know, I have problems walking because I have fibromyalgia and different diseases and things. Nothing anybody can catch, but various unpleasant things go on with my muscles and bones. And I said to my partner Chrissy that this chariot day was coming, and would she take me into town and we go and see them? They were on a field near the cathedral, central Manchester, and I got there and it's a nice enough day, and there was free food and everything, and we saw the chariots coming, and I'd been reading the Bhagavad Gita a day or two before that, maybe even the night before. And I remember some music started up, and I said, "Oh," and I started doing a little dance to it. And normally my legs wouldn't have been, but I felt it quite easy to just dance for a little while on the grass. And I saw a little statue of Krishna. I don't know what he was doing there on his own. Anyway, a little one like that, about a foot high or so, on a tree stump or something, I think. And he'd had garlands round him, and one of them had dropped on the floor. And I remembered what it said about if you offer me a leaf or water or whatever. And I said, "There you are, I'll give you that back." And as I put it back, it was like a punch to the solar plexus chakra, like a thank you. And in my mind, I saw this bright blue flower just going like a bright blue, not quite a lotus, more like a chrysanthemum, actually. When I got home, I looked it up and typed into Google, as you do. Is there a blue flower called Krishna? And there is, and it looks exactly like the one I've seen. There is a Krishna flower. It's a very deep, iridescent cobalt blue, and it looks like a blue chrysanthemum. So there was
Wow.
that, and there's all sorts of weird things that have happened like that. That will I say, go on, give it a go. So I did. That's a short story anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what that experience feels like, and we say it's kind of weird, but actually when you really think that Krishna's in control and Krishna's communicating with us, it's that kind of heart to heart connection. Us as
Oh
individual
yeah.
spiritual beings connected with our source, the supreme person. And and we might understand that kind of intellectually, oh, we're not the body, we're blah blah blah. But actually, when you really feel it and you experience it, it's quite magical.
Oh, it is. It can knock you for sick. I've so many stories like that. I don't know if you'd be interested because it's kind of like where magic and synchronicity and Krishna overlap. But
Tell us another one. Go on, tell us another one.
another one.
If you want
Um,
to, and if you feel comfortable.
I'll tell you one of the more recent ones because this is quite funny. Yeah, I'm trying to think what is the name for a god of the day. It begins with a D. Shah, Dean, Dinar. It's something like Dinar. I'm really sorry if I've got it wrong. I won't mess around looking it up now. But the name means god of the day. I had rescued in the summer. I had rescued a bee, that was rolling around in outside and didn't look very well. And I gave it some sugar water and whatever. And this lady was coming past, and she lives in our block, and she's quite a, what I would say, quite a simple soul, you know. And she said, "What are you doing with that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a bee. It's thirsty. I'm trying to get it back to normal life again." So we watched this little thing drinking, and it was all right and buzzed away. And she said to me, "I'll call you the lady of the bees now because you did that." And as she said it it wasn't her anymore behind her eyes. It was Krishna's
Mm,
eyes.
mm,
Now, to make make this even odder, a couple of days later, I went to the supermarket with Chrissy, and I was just looking around at household stuff like you do, thinking, "Don't be silly. You don't need any more cushions. Leave it alone and live simply." And there was a little ceramic candle holder, and it had a hollow in for you to put a nightlight candle in, and on the side of it was a little bee just hovering, also made of china. And I said, "Oh, it's £2. That's good. That's really nice. I'll take that. I'll put it for Krishna in the kitchen." So took it down to the self-service, scanned it, no scan, no price on it, nothing. And I said, this is really weird. So a young Indian man came over and said, "Can I help you?" I said, "I can't find a price on this." And he said, just have it for £1. And I said, "That's very kind of you. Um, it's for my little altar at home." And he said, "Oh, that's cool." And I just had to ask him, "What's your name, by the way?" Because I couldn't see his name badge. And he said this name, Dinar, which means it was something like God of the day or God of this day. So I went home with it for £1 instead of £2. And he showed me, you know, he put it through, fiddled it through
yeah,
like a staff purchase, if you will. Yeah.
yeah,
Things like that happen so often that you know you think it can't be, you know, what is coincidence anyway?
mm,
It's extraordinary.
yeah. A Christian friend of mine calls it, instead of coincidence, God incidence. It's a God
All right.
incidence.
Yes, I can see
God,
it.
Krishna,
Yeah.
whatever name you use in your own tradition, is arranging and organizing everything, even when we don't feel
Uh,
it or understand it or experience it or
mm,
whatever. I had one recent, so I shared one on a recent podcast, but I'll share a different one. I know I come across as quite cool and calm a lot of the time, but about a month ago, I was quite worried about. So the Hare Krishna project, we've got a lot of things that we're doing, a lot of projects, and it all costs money. And we're doing trips, we're publishing books, we're doing events, and all that kind of stuff. And I just found myself worried about where we're going to get the money from, where are we going to get the money from to do all these things. And literally, after about 90 seconds of worrying, there was a £10 note on in front of me on the pavement. Now, gone are the days when, I mean, years and years ago, you could often find money lying around, but people don't use cash so much these days.
no,
So it's
no,
very
they
rare
don't.
you do find money. And it's probably 10 years ago I found money anywhere. And I literally felt Krishna saying, do not worry. I mean, £10 wasn't going to cover the cost of everything that we wanted to do. But literally, there's £10 there, right? And Krishna's saying, do not worry.
Yeah.
I will provide. I will provide. And Krishna has gone on to provide the support now that we need. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot. Okay.
Uh, sorry, can I just say, I think that's how faith is encouraged. Faith isn't believing in something because somebody said something or you've read it in a book. You know, it's I think that there's interaction that inspires and encourages faith as a real thing, as you were. It's belief. It's not even belief, it's experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
experience. We're experiencing Krishna consciousness.
Mm.
You know, I'm trying to think about that more often these days. We're experiencing it. I'm living it. Uh, yeah, and that's a whole other podcast. Being, you know, I will, you and I could talk forever. Um, so Felix, you've spent the last 50 years, sounds like a long time. You've spent the last 50 years studying a vast array of philosophies and spiritual traditions. A lot of them have been linked with the occult.
Mm.
Um, can you please tell us about each of them or some of them and what they're about? so it's kind of we're having like a comparative part of the podcast, you know. So we've talked about some of them already. It's because a lot of our viewers and listeners won't know what, you know, the occult is.
That's true. Yes.
So we could start with the first one on my list, which is the Theosophical Society. So
Which we
just tell us a bit about what it is and what they do.
Well, it's a society created by Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, this very mysterious Russian woman who lived like a man, really. I mean, she had a marriage just convenience at 16 and just lived celibately with this chap and went on adventures all over India and went up the Himalayas with what do they call Sherpas and said, I mean, I've seen photographs of her, which I believe, you know, it is her, she is in India. And she said she spoke with lamas and wise men and whatever, and said that all of them seemed to of one mind, regardless of whether they were nominally Buddhist or Hindu or Jain or whatever, that there's only one true religion, and that is Theosophy, which is the knowledge of God, the Theosophia. And the motto that she claimed for her society was "There is no religion higher than truth." Now, I think, excuse me, I just got my phone. I think that's 1875. So I won't be a second.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So just while we're waiting for Felix, I did study a bit of the Theosophical Society at university. And what I find quite humorous, but also doesn't surprise me these days, is the man that came to give the guest lecture about theosophy
Uh-huh.
was a Church of England vicar, who was a
Oh,
Church of England vicar and a theosophist, which at the time it didn't quite click that he was both. It wasn't until about a month later I thought, my goodness. It just something dawned on me later that yeah. Which date are you saying it was founded? You
I'm saying it was founded, I think it's 1875. I can never remember. Yeah, I
yeah,
call it 1875. Yeah. I
yeah,
can never remember whether it's 75 or 85,
yeah.
but
The
it's way, way
Theosophical
back.
Society, yeah, yeah. And I think there was a man that kind of co-founded it. It was Madame Helena Blavatsky and Henry
And
Olcott.
Henry Olcott.
Yeah,
Olcott. Yeah.
yeah. And back in the day, the Theosophical Society, which taught theosophy, was quite big, wasn't it? It was, you know, it was growing across Britain at least.
It became very popular with the sort of upper middle class fans of esotericism.
Yeah,
Quite a few who had been spiritualists or were still spiritualists, but wanted to listen to something different, I suppose, would go to the lectures. They were free to attend, but you could join the Theosophical Society for a nominal fee. I'm just looking here that the one of the particular teachings is that there is a group of Mahatmas or masters who are enlightened beings who've attained a high level of consciousness and wisdom, who guide the human evolutionary purpose. And they appear as avatars for particular times. The next one is supposed to be a gentleman called Kutumi, and the Master Jesus is also included in that. Now, Blavatsky claimed to have received direct guidance and messages from these masters. Sadly, I think some of them were fraudulent because they would turn up as actual written documents, pieces of paper. But she was a medium as well, so she would say that a master had given her guidance about such and such a thing, and you know what should be done about vegetarianism, what should be done about a more equitable distribution of goods in the world, and so on. It's very, very interesting. I mean, they meet now in Manchester. I think it's Saturday afternoon at the Quakers Hall. The Quakers Hall. And they've always stressed, they wouldn't dare stress anything else with Blavatsky family. They always stress that their complete equality of people, regardless of gender, race, colour, religion. It's not a religion as such.
Mm.
I'm just looking at,
Yeah.
oh yes, Annie Besant was a lady who also did a lot of work on that, and she was very much for women's rights,
Mm.
uh, the vote and so on.
Yeah. And I knew that the Theosophical Society was quite big in Britain in the late 1800s and early 1900s, but I actually looked it up the other day in preparation for the podcast, and it's a lot smaller now.
Oh yeah,
I mean, there's one in Bristol on that side of the country, and then there's maybe two in London, two or three in London, but that's it. And then there's, it's not as big as it used to be. Um, and yeah, it's a very interesting mix of kind of Hinduism, Christian mysticism, and kind of psychic mediumship.
it
And
is. It is. Yeah.
and
I mean, like everybody with these groups, that they're trying to make a universal, what's the word I'm trying to find? The universal recipe for
yeah,
finding the truth and living the truth.
yeah, kind of a universalism, kind of one love, we're all together, all the religions are correct type thing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I looked up Madame Blavatsky's biography the other day, she was Ukrainian.
Oh, Ukraine. I wasn't sure whether it was Ukraine or Russia or
Yeah,
whether it was still part of Russia.
yeah. If I'm honest, I'm not sure about the history between Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, it's quite topical at the moment.
Excuse me.
But yeah, she was born, according to the internet, in Ukraine. I don't know if the borders of Ukraine have changed over the years. I'm not sure.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
oh, no worries at all. No worries at all. I'm happy to talk on, but yeah, and the Theosophical Society is one of the more least well known. I mean, I know it's not on our list today, but the Church of Scientology is more well known. And
Oh, yes, it's enormous still.
just as you're taking a break, uh, people that follow the Hare Krishna project know that I'm on a tour at the moment of different groups, visiting different groups. So I've been to three so far, and I'm continuing. So I've been to meet the worldwide, sorry, the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification,
Sorry,
otherwise known as the. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
I'm going to have to take. You keep talking for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise known as the Unification Church,
Oh,
founded by Reverend Sung Mayan Moon. I've also been to visit the Church of Scientology, which, of course, I got a lot of feedback about that. Thank you, everyone, for the feedback. And just recently, and we'll come on to that a bit later on, I've been to visit the Spiritualist Church in the south of London, in Balham, actually with some Hare Krishna devotees, because believe it or not, a number more than you realize, a number of Hare Krishna devotees are into psychic mediumship or reading tarot cards or communicating with people that aren't physically present anymore. What's fascinating, we've talked about the 1950s a bit already in this podcast. What's kind of fascinating about it is there was a lot going on. Some of those groups I mentioned, such as in the Unification Church, the Church of Scientology, they were all set up in the 1950s. It was also a period of kind of, the rise of the whole UFO cult phenomenon. Some of you might be fans of the X-Files, where we hear a lot about kind of UFOs and UFO sightings. There's been a huge increase in UFO sightings since the late 1940s. I was just filling people in, Felix, on
oh
different
yes.
things, ufology, and the fascinating period of the 1950s. Um,
Ah,
so yeah, that was the Theosophical Society. The next one is an interesting one, which I know very little about. I've never really studied them. The Rosicrucians, is that how you pronounce it?
yeah. They claim that they are a secret brotherhood stroke sisterhood who've been here since the beginning of the world. They're the enlightened people, if you like. And if you become a Rosicrucian and you join up, you too will be enlightened. But it's basically, again, teaching people to meditate, to practice simple tasks such as aura reading, how to see your aura in the dark room. You can do it at any time, actually, if you've got your hands against a black background and you move them very gently like that.
Mm,
Like after a couple of, well, a few seconds actually, you can see an energy discharging around your hands. Dead people don't have that. Just not that I've been waving a dead person's hands around, but they don't. And apparently scientists have just discovered this to be true, that we have an electric field. And some people can see a whole range of lights within the aura of a person, and they can tell things about them, see how well they are, see how evolved they are, see if they're nice people or not. Something I picked up on a few times, I can tell you. I once met a perfectly ordinary looking man coming out of a theatre when I was waiting for a friend of mine to come out, the gents in there. And I saw this guy, and his aura was just, it was so evil. It was just absolutely horrible. Perfectly ordinary looking man. He got a great coat on, smart tie, dressed for the theatre. And there was something absolutely awful about him. And my friend came and got hold of my arm and said, let's go. And I said to him, are you okay? And he said, it's that guy, it's that guy. And I said, what was he in the bathroom? Did he trouble you or anything? And he said, no, I just can't stand him. So reading auras is one of the things that the Rosicrucians taught. They also taught about esoteric mathematics, such as the kind of mathematics that we use to build the pyramids. If you look into their Egyptology courses, it's quite interesting the way that the pyramids were made to certain proportions to do certain things, and to it's too complicated to go into here. But you know what I mean by esoteric mathematics. And they teach a lot about that. And about
I find it fascinating that they say they've been around since the beginning of time. It's quite a statement to make, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is, yes. But a lot of mystical stroke esoteric groups, they don't disbelieve in the Darwinian theory of evolution. They think that there's something to it, but they believe that there are and always have been people who are different from ordinary people. And it's very difficult to say that without sounding like it's some sort of snobbish thing. But well, they would call them initiates, but of course, initiates means something different in Krishna Consciousness, and it means something different in every group, really. And that these people have to be around to help evolution. There's the famous man that the Rosicrucians like called Saint Germain, the Count of Saint Germain. Don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard of him. Yeah. Are the Rosicrucians? Do they have any links with the Knights Templar?
I don't think they do as such, but their teaching structure is Masonic, in that you go from being a neophyte up to being an adept. My father was an adept in it, but you can go higher than that. But they're secret degrees. They're not taught as such. I mean, I get the gist of what they mean, but obviously it's not something you can go. It's like if you go higher than, is it 30th degree or 33rd degree Freemason? Beyond that, it's just absolute silence. You can't read about it because there isn't anything to read. But yeah, they would encourage anybody of any gender or race to be an adept. Positive thinking and visualization is another thing. And I can do that. That's very interesting, very useful. A very useful knack where they teach you, for example, manifest a book that you need if you're studying something. You know, if it's you try to get it out of the library and it's not available. Yeah, it absolutely is available. Just decide that you want it within 24 hours and give your subconscious mind the instructions for that. And it will turn up. Somebody will bring it back early. It's kind of playing with the plasticity of the physical world, if you like. But again, it's not to harm anybody or do anything unsavory or illegal. You could use it for that, but you can't.
The word I've just thought of, it might be what you're talking about, but it might be different, is telekinesis.
Oh, that's moving things without touching them.
Yeah, but that may be a bit different, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
That's moving objects with your mind.
Yes, I've never seen anybody do. Well, there's an old Russian lady called Miss Kaludina who could do that. Nobody ever worked out how she did it. It was material like matchsticks or pins enclosed in a glass dome, and she had a house like this and would concentrate on moving them. No, it's about needing something rather than desiring something, and it kind of setting the scene for this to be manifested by programming your subconscious mind to bring the item, the goods, the information, whatever, into the physical level where you can interact with it. It could be anything, a rose bush, a library book, something that you've lost. I always go to St. Anthony up there for lost things, and that works every time. It's really
I think I should have to give it a go. I want to kind of
do.
think about things. Let's talk now. So next on the list is the Spiritualist Church. And that's probably one of the most well-known on the list. A lot of people would have heard of Spiritualism or the Spiritualist Church. Tell us a bit about it and what they do.
Well, most spiritualist churches, sorry, my voice is a bit broken.
Okay.
Most spiritualist churches are nominally Christian in that they do believe in Jesus and God, often God and or the Trinity. They're very open, very friendly. Anybody can go along anytime. You don't have to reserve a seat or know anybody or join a membership or anything. And they believe quite simply that there is life after death. Now, how they square that with the possibility of reincarnation, I don't know. But most people going to a spiritualist church will be likely to get messages through a medium from, say, a recently departed relative or friend, rather than from Cleopatra or Oscar Wilde or whoever, you know.
Queen Victoria or something. Or
yeah. It's some mediums go into trance, they're called trance mediums, and sometimes, well, more often, actually, no, I'll start again. There are mediums, I think, who are like the kind you saw, who go onto a platform or sit amongst the attendees, and they have a message in their mind that they produce and say that they've been given this message by A, B, or C, and it's a message for the gentleman in the red sweater or whatever. And then there was trance mediums who obviously go into trance, they sit quietly, they zone out. And often they will speak with another voice, which is either the discarnate spirit speaking through them, excuse me, or it's their spirit guide. A lot of them claim to have spirit guides who are deceased people or people on another plane, if you will, who guard them and let through spirits who wish to speak through them, and they will speak with another voice. Now, material mediums, I have never seen one in my life. I don't know anyone that can do this. They actually materialize or claim to materialize actual solid people, spirits, but solid as people who come in the room and walk about and shake hands with people, usually done in darkness, really deep darkness, sometimes with a red light bulb on. Sorry,
it's okay. It's okay.
Uh,
Drink as much as you need to drink. It's fine.
It's not just drinking, it's asthma and things. I've got everything. I've got the fan going and taking pills and whatever. Yeah, and it's all rather creepy. I mean, there has been quite a bit of study gone into this. There's some mediums, very, very few, I would say 2 or 3, who have not been proven as frauds, where people have said, look, they sat in a cabinet, we went right through it, we examined them, we had a doctor examine the medium, you know, orifices and everything, to make sure that they weren't carrying anything that they could use to commit fraud with. We've had the cabinet taken to bits and whatever, and they've sat in there in the dark, and a different person has come out of the cabinet while they were supposedly unconscious inside, and that person that came out of the cabinet was a recognizable spirit. Very, very strange. I'm still in 2 minds about that. I mean, I have seen spirits, but they've not been rock solid. Not at a seance. I mean, just in general, I have met a couple of spirits. They look solid, but they're rather like holograms, actually. But so many of these mediums from, say, the Victorian era up to the 1940s, 50s, they were frauds,
Mm, mm.
sadly. You should
Yeah.
look at, like, the story of Katie King. That's very interesting.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, the spiritualist movement is still quite big in Britain, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mentioned about 10 minutes ago that I went to visit a spiritualist church in Balham in
Yeah.
Wandsworth,
Balham.
Balham in
Balham.
South London on Sunday, and that was a fascinating experience. I went with a devotee, or Hare Krishna devotee, and yeah, it was. I'd never been to a spiritualist church before, and it was very Christian actually.
Yeah.
We prayed to the Judeo-Christian God. We actually referred to God as Mel, which surprised me. I thought there would be more references to female or feminine.
Hmm.
But that surprised me, and it felt very Christian, and we did sing some Christian songs, which was quite interesting. And there's refreshments after, like there is in a
I've got cups
Christian
of
church,
tea.
tea, coffee, and biscuits, and whatever you want to eat, or not
Very
whatever.
nice.
But it was fascinating, and yeah, people watching this podcast on Facebook would have seen the photos of me with the psychic.
Oh, indeed. Yes, I
She
did.
was
I
the
remember.
psychic. And actually, I didn't mention this in the post, but she did have a reading for me, which I won't go into too much detail. It's fairly accurate. I didn't give much away about myself when I went to visit. Nobody really knew me. I think,
Uh-huh.
the only new person there. I've been to South London probably twice in 5 years,
Mhm.
maybe a bit more. These people didn't know me, and she did give a reading that was relatively accurate. And what I also didn't mention on the Facebook post after my visit to the Spiritualist Church on Sunday is the reason why I went was because this devotee friend invited me to go. And
Uh-huh.
shall I say his name?
I
No,
think
I'm not going to
you
say his
do.
name. But he appeared as a guest on this podcast about 3 years ago.
All right.
And I knew that he was a psychic medium. And we
Uh-huh.
talked a bit about that during the recording. And what I've never said publicly before, I'm about to say for the first time, is when the
Uh-huh.
recording stopped, we were kind of chatting still. And I asked him, he didn't know much about me at all. I don't put a lot about my private life on social media. And I then asked him if he could tell me anything about me or my family. He said, Narada, the whole time we've been talking, there's been a lady standing next to you,
Oh.
and she's had her hand on your shoulder.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of felt a bit freaked out, actually. And then I said, what can you tell me about this woman? And he described my grandmother really well and described how she died.
Oh,
Okay, and none of that's on social media. I mean, you
no.
know, I don't put that. People don't know whether my grandparents are alive or not. I don't actually have any grandparents alive, not in the physical realm anyway. And it was really fascinating, really fascinating. And I've had it just a not that I practice psychic mediumship, but I've had a increased interest in it since then. So he then invited me along to his church. He still chants Hare Krishna, but also it was also his
Oh.
church, so I went on
It,
Sunday.
it was his regular one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Okay. We'll
oh,
just
I'm sorry. I'm interviewing you, aren't I?
no, it's fine. I don't mind when people ask me questions. I don't always know the questions in advance either. Somebody did interview me once. That was an interesting experience.
Oh,
So just a few more of the others. Golden Dawn. What is Golden Dawn?
the Golden Dawn, not to be confused with the Nazi group, is in Germany. It's an esoteric teaching group with uh, its structure based upon the Kabbalistic tree of life, if that means anything to anybody on here, including yourself. I don't know. Do you know about the tree of life?
Kabbalistic Tree of Life. Is that Jewish mysticism?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically it's a diagram that is like a tree with spheres on it, like fruits, which are called sephiroth, which is the Hebrew for spheres, and it represents the Adam Kadmon, or the first being, and it we reflect that in our own bodies. And interestingly enough, the spheres on the tree line up with the chakras. So there's definitely, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a Kabbalist the other day, and he said, yes, there is Indian influence on Hebrew mysticism, definitely. And there's a negative and a positive side of the tree. You can't have a negative without a positive side and vice versa. So it's nothing to do with good or evil. And it represents both the creation of everything from the highest high, which would be perhaps Brahman. I don't know, maybe Brahman, down to the world of the earth, Malkuth, the earth. And if you're studying with the Golden Dawn and with quite a few other esoteric groups, you work your way up the tree of life, graduating through various initiatory degrees. Now, when you come to this part, the solar plexus center, that's the sun center, obviously, because it's solar plexus. That represents the point where your regular self and your higher self, your Paramatman, is coming together. The Paramatman is stimulated, and the two of you are connecting. Now, I think that's what you and I are doing, in that things seem to fall into place, and you have this urge to do things right. You've usually got very high ethical standards. I'm not saying that to show off. It's just something that you seem unable to. I mean, I can't swat insects. I just won't do it. You know, I could, even if I let a mosquito bite me a few years ago, much to the horror of an American friend, because it just kept coming back, you know. When you're at the point where things just seem to fall into place, in the magical school of that type, you'd be saying that you're becoming an adept, meaning that you're moving away from the kind of ordinary day-to-day level of most people. You don't look any different or behave any different in particular, but you'll often find that good things happen. You'll have predictive dreams. You'll know things about people, sometimes before they know it themselves. Animals come to you. Unexpected bonuses like the £10 note, of course, as a symbol. Synchronicities happen, and you're just quite settled being yourself. You don't have materialist desires as such for £1,000 shoes or any such nonsense. You know, you won't
I've
really
never
be.
spent. I've never even spent £100 on shoes.
No.
I've
Oh,
never.
I did once. I'll have them for 10 years though. But you enter into a different way of being. You're you get a kind of hotline to God, if you like. You're operating in the way that God, Krishna, wants you to do, but you could also choose to not do. You're not a puppet on the string, but you're kind of leveling out with Krishna. Quite often, if people do experiments, I was looking for one today, but my dad had done it with Nordic gods. I couldn't find any Indian ones. People will put Krishna as a sun god if they want to do it. You know, apply the tree to a different religion. They'll put Krishna as a sun god, and at the solar plexus chakra, and then Vishnu at the heart, heart and throat maybe, and Brahman as that which cannot be encountered directly as the skull mind chakra. It's very hard to say. I mean,
It's fascinating. It's all fascinating. I mean, someone who's interested, like me, someone who's interested in comparative religion. You know, you've talked about Golden Dawn, and the Rosicrucians, and a lot of what you've talked about sounds like Scientology, the Church of Scientology, and they're operating thetans or thetons. And I just see all these links. I mean, whether they're accurate or not, or true or not, is another issue. But there's so many, and there's also links to Freemasonry as well.
Very much so. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, was a Freemason, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was. He probably was. I mean, any Scientologists watching? Maybe some do. I had so much stick when I went to the Church of Scientology the other week. from people that watch this podcast, and my friends that are, anyway,
Yeah.
that's another issue. I
Well,
came out alive.
they do tend to hassle you, once you've got any contact details.
I gave them my bank details. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. My address. Uh, um, okay, we've got four more on the list, and then I want to
Oh,
draw it back to Krishna consciousness. I mean,
good.
or we can just talk about two, or do you want to do all four? I don't mind.
Oh,
I think
I think my brain's a bit
that's
full.
no worry, no worries at all. I
What
just
else
want
is
to.
on there?
Can we just maybe kind of conclude with um, how then, after all these years of studying
Hmm.
and research, how have you kind of concluded for yourself and your own life in Krishna consciousness? What is it about Krishna consciousness that really appeals to you?
I think what it is that I've made a synthesis in my own mind of the best explanation of life that I could find from various groups teaching, such Golden Dawn, Rosicrucianism, which inspired the Golden Dawn anyway, or just Oriental Templars is a different thing, and that was created by Crowley. It's essentially a Gnostic teaching group. But I think what it is the idea that we're here and we think we're small, but we don't realize how big we are because we have that Krishna, that which is
Mm,
in us and through us all the time, both inwards and outwards, which is what I think it says in the Upanishad, which I was reading last week, that Krishna is both within and without, but there is no within or without. It's a constant flow like air. And that we can gradually, by enlightenment and bhakti, we can gradually move away from being, lying in the gutter and staring at the stars to actually being with the stars
mm,
and
mm,
becoming, well, Krishna consciousness, conscious of everything. Did I
mm.
tell you about talking of consciousness? Sorry, it's a bit of a detour. Did I tell you about my accidental experiment with cough medicine and brandy and how I got a zap of Krishna consciousness many years ago, but I didn't know what to call it? Poor Narada, you're going to have to take all this down, aren't you?
I wasn't expecting you to mention brandy in this podcast today,
Yeah.
but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about what you're
Well,
about to tell us.
I'd been rotten ill with flu. It's years ago. It's years before I met Chrissy, so it's at least 20 years ago. And I had some cough medicine, and it was a over-the-counter thing, and it had something in it, not morphine, but something similar. And I'd had gut ache as well, and I thought, I'm having a brandy. I'm just having one small brandy with it. I'm sick of everything. I want to go to sleep. So I had the brandy, and it wasn't a massive amount. I had the brandy, passed out in the bed. And I woke up what must have been an hour or two later, and I understood everything in that room. I mentioned this on one of the Sanghas, the meetings that we had recently. What happened was that I looked at a wooden bookcase and I realized that it had karma, that it had been a tree, well, a seed, a little thing, a sapling in a tree, and it had grown and it had been cut down and it had been made into this furniture. But that didn't mean that it is furniture. It's the karma of a tree
Mm, mm,
at this moment, because if eventually it will rot away with woodworm or natural decay or whatever, maybe in a couple of
mm,
100 years. And everything in the room was like that. The cotton of the sheets had been cotton flowers, cotton buds that had been picked and woven, and it was their karma or their dharma, maybe rather, to be that sheet, that particular sheet for me at that particular moment while I was hot in the bed. And everything in that room had come together for that moment to be
mm,
with me. It was all alive.
mm.
And I've never ever forgotten that because it knocked me crazy.
I want to actually, I was just looking at my phone because I was looking at our message exchange from last month. And you said something to me that really stuck with me. And
Oh,
it was quite um, profound. And you basically said to me, Krishna consciousness to me is the most clear and profound end result of Western esotericism.
hmm.
And I thought, wow, what a statement.
It is, isn't it? I must have been
Yeah,
inspired.
yeah. I thought, wow, the most profound end result of Western esotericism. I thought, wow, for Felix, Krishna consciousness has really made an impact in her life. And you could have stuck with any of these groups over the last 50 years. You had the freedom to stick or choose any of them. But you chose Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness. And that's such, for me, such a statement, such a commitment, such an act of devotion.
It's just that, you see, all of these groups, people want to know more. They want to know why we're here, where we're going. Does something happen after death? Is this all an illusion? Is it nonsense? Should we just be Nietzschean and not care, about anything? Say it's all just what it is. But almost all of them come to the conclusion that we are both separate from and the same as a higher being.
Mm, mm,
And as we practice, we get more and more linked in with that.
mm.
And there are proofs shown to us, like I was talking about before, through synchronicity and through all sorts of things that say, actually, hey, I'm here, it's real. And you don't really get that, to me, with the Christian church. It's very much us and him. There's like this barrier here. Except the Christian mystics, of course,
Mm.
had some sort of identity with Christ, didn't they? Some of them, St. John of the Cross and so on. But I think that's as far as you can go in the human form, is to link yourself with that which is and which was never born and never dies.
Mm.
You and it become it. Does that make
Yeah.
any sense
It
at
makes a
all?
lot of sense to me. It makes wonderful sense to me. Yeah, thank you. Okay, Felix, I think I'm going to say goodbye to the viewers and listeners at home. You stay on the line. It's like a chat
Okay.
show, isn't it? Stay on the line. I'll say goodbye because we've been recording for well over an hour. An hour 10, I think, maybe. Um, and I'm conscious it feels like it's getting late. I think because the weather isn't so great where I am anyway.
Yeah, very dull in
Um,
Manchester.
I don't know
Not
what the weather's like
surprisingly,
in
really, is
Manchester.
it?
But yes, if you just stay there, don't kind of leave
Okay.
Zoom. I'll say goodbye to everybody. But massive thank you to Felix for returning to be our 180th guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast.
You're very welcome. And thanks to everybody who's watching and listening. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you've returned after all these years and your support over all these years as well.
Oh,
And I'm pleased that something that I said once made a difference. I just follow what I'm told or what I'm taught. Um, okay, so just a reminder to everyone listening or watching at home or wherever you listen and watch these podcasts, it might not be at home, could be somewhere else, could be in Starbucks, could be in the pub, could be in the job center, could be in the park. I have no idea. So if wherever you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you can be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. Or if you're watching this on Facebook, which is the other platform where you can watch these podcasts, if you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Whenever I say these things, the number of subscribers, followers, and likers, likes does increase, which means you do stick around to the end of the podcast and you do listen. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the ever-growing global audience that we've got on a regular basis. Have people getting in touch with me from all over the world, from places that I've never heard of. Which is quite something, and to ask for help, support, guidance, to complain about something, to moan about something, to tell me something that I might be intrigued to hear about, and later on they become a podcast guest. Okay, so until next week, I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.